You just have to tell me, and then I can do it. Give me the memo.
Did you guys all read this yet? Yeah. Did you read the risk part? It sounds kind of frightening.
It's standard auditor letter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll get started, Commissioner Roundtable. We'll start off with Commissioner Laird.
I was hoping to start off with Commissioner Nicolason. I'm worried about money. I'm a little worried about money. The county's money. And I see where they're talking about it in this letter from the auditors. And I'm worried about this airport. It's really not the airport's issue. It's their side issue, and that is the issue of continuing to give money to a private corporation where we have no direct knowledge from the corporation why it can't make money. I said when I voted for this that I'd go for it for 1 year till we figured it out. But I think we're entitled to hear something directly from the corporation, Sky West. I understand their planes are full. I understand we have a lot of people using their plane, and so why is it losing money? Most of the businesses that I've ever seen that lose money, there's some management issues, or you run into something called COVID or something like that, but I don't know that that's the issue. So when I go check the statutes and I read about the duties of a commissioner, one of them is to really take a lot of impeccable care with the financial stability of the county and how we spend money and what we spend money on. And then I read this letter that was sitting on my desk from the auditors. It has about 4 ticklers in it about money management, one of which is how we take cash. I don't like taking cash in these kind of organizations. Years ago, Joe Cardine and I represented one of our county clerks who was charged in federal court with some sort of money issue. And we ended up getting the case against him dismissed. And then we had another clerk, not clerk of court, county clerk, another county clerk, Edie Howard, who they made all kinds of allegations against concerning cash, and he was actually convicted. We've got a great county clerk now. I don't ever expect any issues there. But just general overall, and I've been thinking about this for almost the whole year I've been on the commission, but I really think that it would behoove us to, first of all, consider hiring some form of county manager that's here 8 to 5 days a week, because we aren't as commissioners. And that can coordinate a lot of things that we don't seem to get coordinated or timely coordinated. I mean, everybody's doing their best, but it's, unless you've got a full-time person, it makes it difficult. So I've mentioned that a few times, and I'd really like to do more than just kick the football around the building here. I'd really like to give some serious thought to what that would cost us to do. I know there was a county administrator back in the 70s. I was talking to Mr. Nicolason. I can't ever remember the guy's name. I met him. I talked to him. He did a lot of work. I'd always see him in his suit and his briefcase. And it was back in the days, I think even when Sweet Erickson was on the commission and Bill Brower and those guys. But and and I remember, I was hired by a couple county commissions, one here and one in Commerce County, and one of the things was looking at fraud and theft. And that was one of my first introductions to some of that kind of thing. And this organization is a great organization. We have great employees, but some of our procedures are, in my opinion, antiquated. And I don't know how we go for an overhaul. I know one of the things that the city did in terms of their building maintenance was they hired an outfit. I don't know if Mr. Friel was on the city council then, but they hired one, and Lisa Ingebrigtsen has brought it up about hiring somebody that goes out and looks at all of our buildings and then gives a report and tells us what is there and what may need to be fixed, replaced, that kind of thing. And they have that report over there. It's pretty impressive, really. And it's done by a third party, so that you don't have the issue of you have an independent evaluation of it, let's put it that way. And I just think that some of those higher administrative matters, I would sure like to see us all address. And I know everyone here is pretty sharp in a lot of those areas. So I think that's basically what's been on my mind lately.
Okay. Commissioner North.
Well, everything's slowly being shut down out at the lakes, and transition is going on. This is that time of year where everything's slowly moving over, so we're getting everything closed down out there, getting things taken care of prior to moving up onto the mountain and doing a lot of the winter projects up there. That's just a normal operation. It's that time of year, October, September, we do that every year because of the transition that it takes and the time frame that it takes to get everything closed down and moving forward. FEMA was here yesterday. They did go out and take a look at Cordis Road. They looked at a couple of other areas. Some of those areas, we'll see what they end up coming up with as far as what they say that they'll let us have as far as funding from the damages from the rains that we've had so far, and bad weather that we had. But I am a little concerned about the weather that we got potentially coming in. Snowstorm that we had last week is not abnormal, but it's an indication that things are going to change, and I hope we're ready for it this year because we have a lot of roads out there, and our employees with the road and bridge have been working a lot of overtime and everything else to try to repair things that they haven't ever had to repair in the past. A lot of culverts getting washed out, a lot of roads getting washed out, and it seems like that's what they've been spending the majority of their time doing is fixing things that have gotten damaged. And unfortunately, that takes away the time that they had that they would normally be able to use to maintain roads and do some other stuff. So they're playing catch up now, and I just hope that we have enough of a fall this year that we can actually, that they can get some stuff caught up without being too far behind.
Commissioner Milne.
I don't have much. Do have a question from Emerson about the lodge. It's getting to that point for ordering material and trying to determine whatnot. They were curious if Michael and a couple of commissioners or the whole board, or how do we want to handle the color coordination for the lodge as far as exterior color selection? Does it matter? 1, 2 of us plus Michael, or let Parks handle it, or the whole board? Or what is the pleasure?
Or you're in charge of that project, correct?
Unfortunately, yes.
My suggestion personally would be, I don't think we all need to be involved in it. I think that if you and Michael get together with them and come up with a color scheme, and then if you want to bring it back to us and give a thumbs up, then I'm fine with that, but I don't think we all need to. That's my personal opinion. Anybody else?
Jim, I'd recommend that we let the Parks Board do it. They're the
Okay,
ones
they
that,
only, okay, but they only meet once a month.
well,
It'd be faster for us to do it.
I'm colorblind, so I can't do it.
I like that.
Dallas is out.
No, I think Dallas should be there, then he'll just follow along.
It's gonna be
But
black
no,
and white.
that is also a idea too, Dave.
well, they could they can
it's
call a
just-
special meeting for something as simple as that. That's not a real complicated meeting. And so, I mean, that would just be my recommendation. That's what we have them there for, is to make those kind of decisions. So,
Peter?
Mr. Chairman, I do agree that the five of us don't need to be micro-focused on colors. I'll be disappointed if something crazy happens and we have some blaze orange or some neon green. But yeah, whether it's one of the commissioners or maybe even two, and Parks and Amundsen, or Parks Board, if they can, get the direction needed in a timely fashion, I'd be okay either way.
What? That's a good idea. So like Dave, you're the liaison on Parks, right?
Yeah.
So why don't you and I, and then Michael, if you can scrounge up one of the Park Board members, when time comes, and then we can put it together real quick.
that works for me.
And I was laughing at you, or when you said neon green and orange, because that was the colors I was kind of thinking in my mind.
Well,
Jim's colorblind
just-
too.
Just out of giggles.
yeah, NC and Kelly Walsh, and you might as well throw some red and white in there for
Right,
Casper
right, right.
College, and we've got the bases covered.
Don't forget brown and gold.
Well, brown and gold.
House of many colors.
All right, Commissioner Nicolason.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. So I was observing a little social commentary on the Nordic Trails Lodge, and I think there were some people that seemed somewhat informed and a lot of people that were not informed. So I looked at our county website, and Parks didn't have anything updated or current with respect to the Nordic Lodge. So I have worked with Michael a little bit, and I think we've got a draft of. I think now he has a draft of something to post that's just factual and just kind of presents a little bit of the history, not much, and a little bit of the time frame and where things are going, and basically, thanks the public for their patience as and during the construction progresses. That there are a lot of issues in front of us as commissioners, and sometimes it seems like the idea of a county manager or county administrator is has some merit. I did, when running for this job, say that firstly, I'm going to devote the time and energy necessary to do my best, but we may in the try to gather some information to see if that makes sense for us as a county. I know Campbell County does it, but when you look at their revenue versus ours, it's not even comparable. So I think there is a cost and affordability issue in trying to find the right person that's going to basically be that right balance, and not be kind of the overlord or the dictator of the county. There are a lot of interesting dynamics with other elected officials, and I think it's a real unique position if we were to develop one. Today we're going to hear from the Collective Health Trust and the Memorial Hospital Board. Maybe we'll see some progress there. I'm sure going to be interested in hearing from those folks on whether any progress has been made, or if we're still having what I believe is not moving in the right direction as far as healthcare for our citizens. The other and only other thing is, and I think that we've been talking about this, and I think we need to keep talking about this, and that is the roads and the plan for roads. This this winter's going to come sooner than, any of us want probably. Well, maybe, except maybe for the skiers and the snowshoers. But I think that it'd be good to touch base with Mike Hagler out at Road and Bridge again and see if there's anything we can do for him, not just in terms of equipment, but hopefully in terms of recruiting and retaining, employees, so that, we've got not only the equipment, but also the personnel to do the best job. And I don't know if we'll be able to stay on top of things as we, if we have the winter we had last year. But hopefully, we can do at least an above average job in taking care of the roads. We heard, I know Coal Creek Road again is an issue, and I know that there are a lot of other roads out there that are issues too, just ongoing. So that's it, Mr. Chairman. Thanks.
Okay. Just two things that I have. Luke over at Visit Casper reached out to me today and was asking about what our feeling was as far as supporting the National Junior College tournament next year. Actually, it's over the next 2 years. And I think when he came in here, he said that the smaller amount was $2,500, the larger amount was $10,000. I just kind of want to get everybody's take on that and your thoughts, because we kind of do need to get an answer back to him whether we're going to support that one way or another.
Is that per cycle or per year?
Per year.
So 2,500 or 10,000 a year.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's the ladies version, isn't it?
It's a ladies tournament. It's supposed to be, if I remember it correctly, it's 24 teams over 6 days that'll come to the community for the tournament itself. So it'd be a big influx of tax base that would come in for that week.
I'm for it. I think it'd be a good thing for the city and the county.
Okay, do you have a level that you're for?
Well, so is it range between 2,500 and 10,000?
Well, 2,500 was the lower one, 10,000 was the higher one.
I wouldn't mind seeing the 10,000. Because I think it's for young people, and it strengthens Casper College significantly. Helps vendors within the city for people who come here, stay here, buy things, eat at restaurants, that kind of thing. I think when we spend money, I like to think that we're getting something for it. There are some bigger expenditures we make that I'm not sure we're getting anything for, but this one I think would be a good one.
Okay. Commissioner
Go ahead.
Nicholas.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I agree with Commissioner Laird that we ought to invest in this for lots of reasons. Economic development, being, near the top of the list, but investing in, college age students and families is a cool thing. I could go either way on a $2,500 per year commitment or a $10,000 per year commitment. I almost, when we heard from them at the prior meeting or 2 meetings ago, we did tell them we'd get back to them, I think, either by the end of October or right around now. So I'm ready to move forward, but they hadn't talked to the city yet. And I just would throw out there that I would be willing to do a minimum of the 2,500, but if the city will match it, then do the 10,000.
Okay.
I hope they match it.
Commissioner Mill.
I'd support it either way as well. My hesitancy on the 10,000 is only because if there was a limited amount of spots, if a business wanted to take one of those spots, they should be in there before we take it. But I think this first year of kicking it off, what we can do to support it would be a good thing. And hopefully see it move past the 2 year and we become home for that tournament.
Commissioner North.
I'm going to agree with Jim on this. I would like to see the business community step up and have those bigger banners for them instead of the county. I have no problem with supporting it, but I think the smaller banner would be a little bit more reasonable for the county as far as putting in. But I do agree that we do need to support this. And if we get down to the end, and if the city chips in or does something, you know, we don't necessarily have to put a big banner. We can still put a small banner and let the businesses have the bigger spots.
Commissioner Nicolason, just to confirm, so you're saying if the city puts in, we'll match, if they put in 10 or a 5-5 match?
Well, it would be, what I had suggested was I'm good with the 2,500, but if they can get the city to do 10, we'd do 10.
Okay.
But I understand and I share some of the sentiments from Commissioner North and Commissioner Milne in terms of letting private industry go forward. And so maybe the more prudent thing to do is to go in at 2,500 now for this 1 year, and then have them come back to us if they're having a difficult time raising additional funds, you know, or if it looks like there's a compelling reason to be in at 10,000 next year, then have that discussion, you know, after this first round, after the first, you know, year of the tournament.
Okay.
Just a comment, Mr. Chairman. My guess is that the smaller businesses would probably not put in 10,000 because they would be more worried about, you know, their own overhead and livelihood. But if it's like CFNR where we strike the match and we get it burning pretty good, then people want in and they see a better product for their money. I just would like to see us, if it's going to get off the ground, to give them the best impetus we can give them to get it off the ground. So if they came in here and said, boy, we'd sure like you guys to give us 10,000 and get this thing rolling. And if it has any of the same momentum as CNFR does, it's going to be great. And then people will show up and we won't have to put any money in, because if I was a merchant in town, I'd want my name on a big banner and asking people to come to my restaurant or my shoe store or whatever it was I had. But I think 10,000 is too much for a lot of these smaller businesses right now. So it's just something to bear in mind is all.
Okay. All right, and then the only other thing I have is on your desk, if you haven't seen it yet, I've been passing around a card for Buck up in Edgerton, so if you would sign that and we'll get it sent off, so.
Mr. Chairman, then it's just as a point of clarification, are we making a decision on that funding now or tonight?
I would imagine we can't do it here, but we need to make it tonight.
We can do a thumbs up. We just can't vote on which direction we're going, and then we can make the final vote tonight. Yeah.
You can come to a consensus at the work session, but yeah, any votes have to be at the regular.
Sure. So just to clarify, the consensus right now is $2,500 that we are in for this tournament. And if they need additional funding, they could come back to us, but we want to leave those 10,000 open for other businesses in the community.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, and then if the city matches it, I'd like the city to know that we said we'll match the 10 if they put 10 in. I'd like that message to be clear to the city.
Did we come off of the match? I don't know that we had a consensus.
I don't know if we had a consensus. I think we agreed on what you
I
said.
think we'd all agree that if city wants to pitch in for a change, that we'd take it.
It'd be good.
Yep, but in terms of where we're at today, 2,500, and then they can come back and see.
As he says with a straight face.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Right. Yeah. So 2,500 for right now. If they need additional funds, they can come back to us, and I'm sure the city will pitch in something. So
Sure.
I am.
And I'm
confident.
hoping they'll pitch in the 10, and then if they do, I hope we match the 10.
All right. So next online is Lita.
So, Mr. Chairman, Lita wasn't able to make it this afternoon, so I'll try to cover her topics. She just wanted to update you on the findings of fact for the Brant Gothberg ISD. That's on the consent agenda for this evening's meeting. The proposed findings of fact she's put together, they're in your packet there. We have contacted the person with the district we were able to. We've published the notice that the district was in danger of being dissolved. We have heard from a representative that they took care of their outstanding, or paid off their outstanding projects as of 2017. I believe that's attachment A to the findings of fact. So there's no funds that are left, and this is just one of the steps in the process to dissolve the ISD. So if you have any questions about this particular one, I'll do my best to try to answer it, but the findings of fact are on the consent agenda this evening. And then if this is approved down the road, we'll liquidate any assets that are left. As I said, I don't believe that there are any, and then we'll have a final resolution dissolving this ISD.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? Okay.
Okay. And then the other matter that Lita had for you was a draft of the winery permit. So she put this together, has sent it to Tracy Good for some review and input. I know she's been in touch with the Liquor Commission too. And we also have this, I believe, on the agenda for your approval. And I guess, Tracy, if you have any comments about it that you'd like to add.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I just had a gentleman reach out to me inquiring about a winery permit. This is a fairly new permit, I think in the last couple years, and I just noticed that we didn't have a resolution establishing one, so that's where this is coming from.
I have a question, but if you go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
No, go ahead. I'll have you go first, Commissioner Nicolason.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. So, Madam Clerk and Heather, I read through that, and I was assuming that for the most part it follows Wyoming statute. With respect to the amounts to be charged, I can't recall if in one place it's $500. Is that statutory as well, or can we set that at a different amount if we wanted?
It's, I'm not quite sure if it's in the statute per se, but it is on the definitions that the Liquor Division gave us, and the $500 was the maximum amount.
Okay, and then as far as only being able to charge one if it's a multiple licensee, is that also either statutory or from the department?
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Mill.
Question, we do have that address wineries in zoning as well. Did we talk to planning at all? Is there any conflicts between tonight's resolution and what we have in zoning?
So this just creates the winery permit, Commissioner Milne. If somebody gets this permit, they're still, wherever they're intending to do their operations, they still have to make sure that it's a
But there's no
permitted use.
conflicts between this resolution and what we have in zoning?
I don't believe so, but you just can't do this everywhere. You'd have to do it in,
Right.
yeah, in the appropriate zoning district. There's also a health department component. They would be inspecting the facility as well. So this is just one of the approvals you have to get to do it.
So two questions that I have is there a limit on the amount of permits that can be put out there?
Mr. Chairman, no.
Okay. And then the second question I have is if we don't have the winery permit in place, do we have a resolution for all the different licenses that are allowed throughout the state, like bar and grill and full retail winery?
Mr. Chairman, I'm not going to say we have one for every license that's available per statute, but for the ones that we obviously have issued, we have resolutions for those that have been passed and approved previously.
Yeah, I was thinking it like, a bar and grill. I don't know if we have those or not, but if somebody wanted to have something like that, are there other do we need to go through this process for any other type of license at this point?
That's a good question. I don't, other than the satellite manufacturer permit, which is different than the satellite winery permit. I think all the other ones have been addressed, but I can certainly look into that again just to be 100%.
I'm just thinking of the different types that are out there, microbrews. There just seems to be a lot of licenses out there that,
And that's a great point. And if you'd rather pull this and we do a little further research and try to get them all in one, that's a great point. That's up to the discretion of the board.
I don't want to cause further work, but if it allows the opportunity for other licenses to be put out there, whether it's, like Bar and Grill has changed now to where it's 60/40, not just food or food and beverage, but it's entertainment and beverage. And so I think if there's opportunities out there that maybe if we do it all in one shot, personally, I think would be a good thing. Commissioner Mill?
What, for amendments though, when those requirements change, then you'd have to redo the whole thing. You'd have to do an amendment for that resolution every time one of those subparts changes. So I don't know if it wouldn't be better just to do each individual. That way, when microbrews change, we don't have to come back and it doesn't really matter. It still work one way or the other.
I
Just
agree,
one thought.
I agree with Jim on that. I do think that we'd be better off having individual ones and instead of clumping things together. I just think that it keeps everything cleaner. Not only that, when people are reading what the requirements are, what they have to do and everything else, they've got it right there in front of them and there's no question about it. And there's no convolution as far as what we do and how we do it.
So, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Milne, I mean, I think we can, if you're okay with it, we can approve this one this evening and then go back to look at what we have for the other licenses. I do remember that there is a bar and grill resolution, but it was passed in 2008. It may need to be looked at and updated. We can see what other ones and then bring those before you. But, if we bring them to you all at once, we can just have them be different resolutions per each license, so.
Yeah, I'm not saying undo what's been done here, and if you want to do them individually, that's fine. All I'm suggesting is that if there are licenses out there that the state is allowing people to have, then I just want us to discuss doing a resolution allowing the citizens of the county to be able to apply for each of those
Playing
individual
devil's
licenses.
advocate though, also the other way, if we did it all in one, but had subsections for the different licenses, then it'd be less for Michelle to keep track of here, there, and everywhere.
Mr. Chairman, since I'm the one that handles the liquor license or the clerk does, I'd
Well,
rather
no,
have
the-
each
I mean,
individual
just for
one.
the resolution. though.
Which, I don't know. I don't care. But
How would you like to handle
I would like it separate, but that's just me. But thanks for asking. But what I was going to say also, just for instance, there's a malt beverage permit, University of Wyoming. That doesn't, obviously, is not going to apply to us. So there are probably some on this list that aren't going to apply to us, but I will certainly get with legal or we'll work together on this and make sure that we're not missing something that could very well apply to Natrona County.
Yeah, I think Heather said that, and you look at the current resolutions, just to make sure that we don't need to update them.
Yeah, I don't know that they've been reviewed for quite some time, so I think it's a really good idea to go back
Yep.
and see what we have. And
Well, and on that note too, Mr. Chairman, I've been looking at the fee schedule in the old resolution from 2005. So if we're looking at that, we might as well do the whole enchiladas. So I have kind of started that project.
Okay. No, I think we're leaving this one in place tonight, and then we'll move forward on the rest of them, correct?
Okay.
Yes,
we're,
Yep.
we're good with leaving it if you are.
we're good with leaving it, and then we'll move forward from there. Anybody else have any questions on the winery? Okay,
And then, Mr. Chairman, I know Jared is next, but he I know is at a meeting, so I'm not sure if, yeah. We could do the legal update now while we're waiting, or,
okay, we can do that. I'm going to step out of here in about 5 minutes for the rest of the afternoon, and I'll be back to the business meeting, but we can go ahead and start with the legal update.
okay. The items that I have the recommendation for the name proposal for Porter Creek. I had sent that out, I think sometime last week. It had the biographical information and the, about the requester and the gentleman that they'd like to name it after. And I guess I just wanted to see if there were any concerns with recommending, the name that's been proposed.
The only thing I wanted to make sure that that is not currently listed under the BLM or under the geological survey, that portion. Is that correct?
No, I don't believe so.
I
My
mean, reading through it,
understanding-
that's kind of what it indicated, but I think I haven't seen very many places that don't have a name on a draw or something else. So that's kind of surprised me when I saw that.
Well, it's the U.S. Board on Geographic Names that is the body that's considering this, and will officially name it.
Right, they're considering it, but what I'm asking is there actually a name where they're wanting to name this Porter Creek?
It's an unnamed portion that's on the Porter property.
So it's an unnamed portion of East Bay Creek.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, that's what I was asking. I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't, when we start changing names and stuff, it confuses people.
Sure.
And so
No,
that's the only reason why I'm asking is that if it's not, I don't have any problem with it. If there's nothing that's listed there,
Yeah.
it's not a big deal. But when you go back in and you start changing things like a lot of them have because of,
No, Commissioner North, I don't think it's that situation. The information we have is that it's an unnamed tributary. It's never had a name. So, Mr. Porter has requested that it be named after his grandfather.
yeah. Well, that's what I read. I just wanted to double check on that. So,
Yeah,
okay.
the Porters, it's their accounting firm that does our audits. Two Porter brothers. Porter Muirhead, just so you know who the people are. And she's right.
They both retired, I
Right.
think.
They're both
And then
retired.
Their sons are also in business in Schenectady County.
Yeah, they're good people. The other thing, Peter, is that they're naming it after their dad who's deceased. According to the U.S. government, they have to have somebody who's been deceased 5 years, and you can name it after that person.
Yeah, I saw that. Yep. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and with that, I'm afraid it did not make it onto the consent agenda this evening, so I would request that if you're okay with it, that we either amend the agenda to approve it, to add it, or that the chairman sign it and that it be ratified at the next meeting. They need this recommendation before November 2nd. That's when the board is going to consider the naming of the
If that's the
creek.
case, tonight I'll make a motion that we add it to the agenda.
You want to do it right now?
We can't.
Can we move the?
We can't, we have to do it tonight at the meeting because the agenda's already been printed up, but I'll go ahead and make that a amendment tonight to the agenda so that we can get it taken care of and move forward.
Yeah, I knew they had a deadline.
Thank you, I appreciate it. The other other matter I had was the RFP for investment services. I had submitted a revised draft of it. Commissioner Nicolaisen had made some changes. Commissioner Milne added one change on the second page. He added an or. And other than that, we have just the changes that Commissioner Nicolaisen has made. So I wanted to see if you wanted any discussion, if you're good with this. Go ahead and get this published. Is that what you would like me to do?
I'm for it because of Mr. Nicolaisen's changes.
We've got to do something.
Yeah.
In order to make the timelines, otherwise.
So is that on the agenda for or do we need to amend it in that respect as well?
Yeah, we don't have anything on here addressing it, so that could be another matter that could be added to the consent agenda, is approval for the publication of the RFP.
I'd be happy to
Okay.
make an amendment to add that to the agenda.
You want to just do both of them at the same time? If we're going to do it, we might as well just do, add them both at the same time.
Both deals.
I mean, it doesn't matter to me.
One
Who
amendment.
does it, just as long as we get it done.
Well, if we can do Porters, we should do it now.
We gotta wait till the business meeting.
Okay.
5:30, you can do it.
Okay, good. Thanks.
And those were all the issues that I had for you.
Mr. Chairman, as it relates to that investment RFP, I agree there's some time sensitivity in doing it, but we do it and then what? We have these proposals come back in and apparently, I mean, I guess I would assume that the five of us review, maybe interview, but it seems to me that that's kind of just winging it, and that it would probably be prudent for us to say, let's have these people be in the room and advise us on their thoughts, any concerns or questions about some of the proposers, the applicants. These people don't have enough experience in the area, or these people didn't respond to certain technical issues that maybe are beyond our, outside of our wheelhouse. And so it seems to me that sooner rather than later, and maybe at the next meeting, we can, during the work session, we can say, okay, well, we ought to have Treasurer Doyle or his designee. Do we want somebody from the outside that has no dog in the fight, that can at least listen in and, whisper questions in our ears to help us evaluate the individual? So it kind of comes back to this. We don't really have an investment committee, so we're kind of acting like the investment committee without, in my humble opinion, having the breadth and depth of knowledge and experience to be a good investment committee. So I would just say we really ought not to be reactive, and we ought to be prepared for getting, I would suspect, at least 10 or maybe more than that of people wanting to handle our money. And frankly, I think some of us know enough to be dangerous, but I know I don't have years and years and years of institutional investment. So just throwing that out there for us to maybe chat about.
Heather, how do we go about creating an investment committee for this particular situation? Because I agree 100%. I'm going to be the last person you want to come to and ask me how to invest your money properly. Plus the fact that it seems like everywhere I go out in the public, every one of these people that I run into that have come in here wanting to invest our money are shaking hands with you, wanting to get your business. And I get it. They're doing their job. But at the end of the day, I mean, how do we pick the right place to put the money? And in my opinion, I think it needs to be an investment committee that gets put together. But how do we legally do that, and who should we have be a part of that?
So, Mr. Chairman, I think we're looking maybe at two different things. We're looking at a selection committee kind of in the short term for helping us choose an investment provider and / advisor. And then maybe a longer term investment committee that's going to be regularly meeting and making these decisions as well. At least that's kind of what I would anticipate. And I think with respect to the committee, that can be created by the board, I think pretty easily by resolution, and you can designate the members or the types of members you want on there. And the same thing with the selection committee as well. So if we're going to choose a selection committee, it certainly should be some, if not all, of the commissioners, the treasurer, perhaps Mr. Martinez, and then outside members. I'm afraid I'm kind of at a loss as to who to include. I don't know if we would want to consult with the city to see if they have somebody that would be willing to help us evaluate this, or could recommend someone that would help us evaluate the proposals that we receive. I guess I think we've got different options available to us.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Laird?
I think I commented on this once before. In my course of my career, I've hired a lot of experts and paid them a lot of money. And most of the time, they delivered the product. And when you hire an expert and you pay them money, they have a financial interest with you, and they also have a moral compass and a legal requirement that they look after you and you only. I think we should hire somebody to review this and give us a report. Talking about a committee, it seems like, it almost seems like it's just something that'll delay everything and a bunch of people arguing about stuff that they're not experts in. I mean, I can prove over the years that I'm not an expert in it. I always bought high and sold low. So I'm not wanting to do that with the county's 90-some $million, but I would like to have an expert who it's their job to do this stuff that can tell you this stuff you wouldn't even conclude was a problem. And they have done that with respect to the kind of bonds that Wildstar put our money in before. I think one of them was Murphy's firm. And so I wanted to see if other people would say the same as Murphy. And so I checked with a couple of other people and they all told me the same thing with something I never would have recognized. It just isn't in my wheelhouse. So there's got to be somebody out there that we can hire that would be willing to do this, to just take a look at this, whether it's a CPA investment sort of guy or somebody that is willing to give us some advice on this. You know, I have a lawyer here in town who's a great lawyer for estates. His name's Ken Barb. I can't spell estate planning. And when I go to see him, he tells me things that I didn't learn in law school. The law has been either changed or renewed or whatever. So I see these experts, and I really think that's what we should do, Mr. Chairman, because then the person we hire, they owe us a fiduciary duty, and for that kind of money, I guarantee you they're going to do us a good job. And then then we're bulletproof. Then we're bulletproof. We take their advice.
Commissioner Nicholas.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I think that I agree with the county attorney that we need a selection committee, and then at a later point, we need an investment committee. I think that we probably are, the five of us are in this deep enough that we'd like to participate in the selection of the investment firm. So that'd be the five of us. Plus, I think either, but maybe not both, Mr. Doyle and Mr. Martinez from the treasurer's office. We definitely need one of them. I'd be probably okay with both of them. Then I think we do need an outside individual that I think has, again, no skin in the game, and maybe they're a retired a retired person with an investment firm that's handled government investments. I have a couple names that were given to me. I only know one of those names, and that person's actually a CPA, not an investment person. And I'd be happy to maybe visit with one or more of you offline about, trying to bring maybe one more person to the table for our selection committee. That would be 5 plus 1 or 2. So hopefully we maybe have 7 total. Anyway, that's just my thought.
Commissioner Mill.
So I would agree that we're not experts in this by trade. But I don't think that abdicates our responsibility to be involved in the process and just turn this over to a hired expert. We put ourselves out there, and we've got to have skin in the game ourselves, whether that's the full board or the designated representatives of the board. That's cool, whatever. The treasurer has to be involved. That's just how it is. So while getting an expert, and I agree with Peter, we should find somebody that can kind of guide us, that doesn't have a dog in the fight, as it were. But we can't abdicate our responsibility on this.
Well, and Mr. Chairman, I want to clarify something. I agree with both what all you guys said, but I think maybe sometimes I don't make it very clear. The experts I'm talking about is the guy that doesn't have the skin in the game, that comes in and sees everything we're doing and gives us his opinion. It's like the chief medical officer of the Mayo Clinic who comes in and looks at all of the x-rays and then says, Doc, did you see spot this? And the doc didn't spot it and they've got it. And then they come in and give you their plan. And so I think you guys are saying the same thing I am. I've got to use the right terminology so that it gets across. But I think what you said, Jim, and what Peter said, or the combination of that, then with somebody that we have that has skin in the game, that's there interpreting the x-rays for us that we're not skilled at, I think we've done our job magnificently then. So yeah, so I think we've all said the same thing, but just use a little different terminology. But I do believe it should be the whole commission on this deal.
Commissioner North.
I do agree that the whole commission needs to be the one that chooses, but we are not the ones but I think you're right. We need to have professionals that are telling us who to choose and give us options and tell us, in their opinion, which ones are the best ones. Because we can't advocate our responsibility to the citizens of this county. But at the same time, we also have to realize that we're not experts on it. And you bring in an outside expert when you aren't an expert on something. So I think that we're all saying the same thing, I believe. I think that, and I do believe that the treasurer's office needs to be involved because they're the ones that are investing our money. They're the ones that are handling it. And it's not really our money, it's the county's money. And that's one thing I want to make sure that belongs to the citizens of the county and not to the commission. So, but I do think that if we have somebody in here that can guide us and direct us in which way we need to go, I think that would take care of our fiduciary responsibility to the citizens of the county.
Commissioner Nicolason.
Just briefly, the equivalent of a Lisa Hubbard that's helped us with the selection of the architect and with the selection of the owner's rep for the health department. That's kind of what I think would be really useful to this commission and the treasurer as we make a selection. Then the city of Casper's investment committee includes Brenda Janikowski, who is either the manager or number 2, but she's with city finance. And then Kermit Willie and Bill Thompson. And it's a 3-member investment committee that, kind of scrutinizes the details. And I don't know if it's a 3-person investment committee or a 5-person, but, just for point of reference and point of information, that's kind of what I'm thinking in terms of, how many and what kind of capacity.
So I completely agree with what you're saying. And I think the biggest thing is that to not reinvest our money as it was and get ourselves back into a situation where we were. So,
Mr. Chairman, a famous guy once told me, he says, I have a lot of people trying to sell me things. And I always hired a devil's advocate to protect me. And so by expert, that's what I'm talking about, because we're going to have a lot of people trying to sell us. Everybody wants our 96 million. So they're salespeople. They are going to do a good job on that. But yet then the expert comes in and says, that would have been good if this happened or that happened. And you need to weigh these things. So that's all I'm really talking about when I say hiring an expert. And I liked Mr. Nicolason's analogy too.
okay. Commissioner Mill.
Just had something after we're done with this subject, before you run away.
Okay. Are we done with this subject? Okay, because I'm getting ready to run away. Go ahead.
So I'd move to go into exec session concerning real estate or contracts.
Concerning what?
Real estate contracts.
I have a motion going into executive session.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Laird.
I know this is off base. I forgot to.
All in favor? Any opposed? It will be an executive session.
Even though there wasn't one on the agenda, which isn't an issue if we have. But I'm just asking. And then say. Well, they can vote, but. No, I don't know where she is. Just. Although also, I don't know, we're supposed to be talking about this primary, which I think is interesting. That was supposed to be at 2:10, but. Like really ask them to use their agenda for the winery thing. It's really interesting. I don't want to miss it, but like I spoke to the Salvation Army guys today. I have 2 stories that came from that conversation. Yeah, I'll wait. Okay. Well, they're probably not going to take any action out of it regardless, but, well, I mean, they can actually, because it's the work session. I don't know. Okay, I'll just wait with them. All right. All right, bye. Do you know what they went into executive session for? Do you know what they went into executive session for?
Whatever the motion was.
Yeah, I didn't catch a reason, that's why I'm asking.
And I honestly wasn't listening.
That's fair.
I was making recordings.
Nice to see you. You too.
Do what? Trying to. How are you doing, Dallas? I'm good. They have to get your reports. Wyoming's process has adopted the international fire code and the national fire code. And right now, we're in the defiance between. Like, so. Yeah. And the gate is and I thought something like I wrote for you know, they're trying to protect the state property owners. It seems that's the same every week. But it's left coming out this we're going to keep getting them from our so, you know, I just, you know, They don't. Yeah. And they. And they had. In March. And then. And I'm trying to catch up. So I started my phone. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. And and, you know, it's not like I just jumped on. Right. But, you know, it's really hard to get people not get somebody else's. I talked with John. They have said just and one rate is, and then the rate cases are an annual, they carry on year after year, but they're asking for it. And just with our stuff. And that's per year. Wow. And that's crazy. And the only time. Oh, it was crazy. But I appreciate it. I was wanting. Yeah. Yes. I've sent him a lot of stuff, pictures of, well, a lot more reps. The guy that planted in the water road. Because, you know, they're saying about age, you know. Yeah. Hopefully, time's lasted. And we for California. I'm just. But still. Thank you.
Did you two ever try any cases in this court?
I'd like to be in on that conversation. Are you Brian? I am, yes. I'm Ian. We've been having a lot of communication. I think we have. And it's like, It does. If you look on our side, I mean, if you look on our side, that's there's gravel
South side.
where we plan, he should have kept. There is, that's not how.
South side.
Yeah.
Just on the south side.
That is
Yeah.
Just making sure.
I went out there and looked at it. Yeah, it looked, I mean, their definition. They took out.
They might have done take that person where I don't. But they did.
I have that response, yeah.
And they were responsible.
Yeah.
But there is activity planners and then it's all. There's no problem. They, you know, just all those.
Are you?
Choice. But anyway, I'm still. And you can consider this. The last change. That was the problem.
I know, I know.
Well, I was that rough.
What?
I mean, I've been here for 15 minutes now. I told Heather to just take care of it. I have to go to one of those other fun meetings where
All right, we'll call this session back in order. Jared, you're on deck.
Okay. Mr. Chair, at this point.
Okay.
Commissioners, at this point, we wanted to give you a bit of an update on the Grass Creek alteration petition that was filed earlier this year. That is up for public hearing again tonight. This afternoon, I just wanted to kind of go through the procedural aspect of this, not get into any of the substance of the actual petition itself, because that needs to be on the record at the public hearing tonight. But just procedurally speaking, the petition was filed quite some time ago. If you recall, we did have a hearing back in April. At that time, there was, I think, some incorrect advice given where we had the petition that was filed, set this for a meeting that first week of April, and then the meeting got snowed out. In that time period, the neighborhood was supposed to file any objections that they had at that time in written form. And then we were going to have the hearing so you could hear public comment on that, but that got pushed to after the date that was posted for the deadline for filing those objections or comments. So essentially, you were advised that you couldn't consider any of those comments that were made. After further review, we did figure out that that was probably incorrect information. So we did pull this from the docket when we were going to hear it again back in July. And then to be able to get proper notice out and some corrections made to the viewer's report that was filed, we ended up setting this for tonight. So it's been quite some time. At this time, you can consider everything that you've heard, everything that was filed in written form. And because so much time has passed, we felt it was appropriate to open this up for another public comment. So the citizens will have an opportunity to come in and speak again. I know some have filed letters again. There was an update, an amendment to the viewer's report. Ms. Turner was appointed as the viewer, so she's a neutral party to this. But in her initial report, she had it listed as, I think, about a 192-foot stretch of road that was asked to be vacated or altered. But in reviewing that, I think what didn't make sense is that it actually is just a 20-foot stretch. So this is a very small parcel, piece of the road that they're asking to be altered. So that updated report, amended report, does have just the specificity of the 20-foot section. And so that's the only change that was made to that. As far as tonight goes, I'll start, when we start that hearing, I will start by giving a brief update. And then I will ask Ms. Turner and Mr. Oliver to come up and give a brief update of discussions that they've had. In her recommendation, Ms. Turner states that she has spoke with County Fire and EMS, and I believe that they have a little bit more of an update to give the board, but that is appropriate to hear at that public hearing on the record at that time. So we'll have them come up, and then you'll actually open it up for public comment again. Anyone that's in favor of the alteration, then anyone that's against the alteration, and then at that point, once you close the hearing, you'll get to vote and discuss.
Okay. Brian's here.
Yes.
Does he need to give you,
I have to ask.
provide any update now?
No, not now.
Not now?
I,
Okay, well, I'm just asking so he knows whether he needs to stick around or if he can come back. So.
yes, it was my understanding. I spoke with Ms. Turner this morning, and she had informed me that he was going to be here this afternoon and tonight. Because of the nature of this, I think that it's appropriate to have what he has to say on the record for anyone that's actually here for that hearing. So I think tonight is the more appropriate time to give that substantive update.
I have a question. One of the things I was concerned about, and haven't done the legal research on it, and that is this. That property's been in this condition for, I don't know how many years, over 10 years. And so that always, and I think Mr. Nicolais and I had talked about that at one meeting, and my question was, is there are houses bordering that, and so if it's been longer than 10 years, and I know they're using it, they're parking vehicles in there and that kind of thing, there's as I recall, there was an outlet for a leaching field there. So do you have any opinion, or have you had to look into it to see whether the laws of adverse possession kick in there? Because if the people that live bordering that property claim that adversely, that would possibly affect anything we did here. And I felt that needed to be cleared up legally before I could consider voting on it.
And Commissioner, we did discuss this within our office. I don't believe that the adverse possession applies here. It was dedicated to the public, and we're talking about that 20-foot stretch of land, not the area that the houses are actually placed on themselves. So to answer your question, just in short, I don't believe that adverse possession applies here, but we also are unaware of any action that has been filed to adversely possess that.
Well, the fact that there hasn't been an action doesn't mean there can't be one.
But at this time, Commissioner, I think you can decide on the matter. There hasn't been any action that's filed. In our discussions, I don't believe that adverse possession applies here.
So do you know who are in favor of this and who aren't? Do the people in favor of it, are they the ones that are in that particular division, or are they in a different one?
My understanding is the ones that are in favor of it are in subdivision 1, Vista West 1. I believe that the section of the road is on. And there are members of Vista West 3 that are opposing this. The petition for alteration was signed by at least 5 members of Vista West 1.
Was it signed by anybody who borders the road?
I believe so, but off the top of my head, I'm unsure of everyone's.
It wasn't.
I mean,
Not-
that's important.
Not on this road.
That's an important thing, a fact that I'd like to know about, if you could figure that out before the meeting, because,
So,
you know, the people who are living there seem to me would be the most affected by a change there.
And Commissioner, I think that's something that you would need to consider in your discussions for whether you vote for or against the alteration.
well, and that'll be covered in the hearing tonight.
Yes.
So,
Yes, and that is a question that can be asked of, I'm not sure how many people are planning on attending tonight, but if you recall the last meeting, there was a packed
Quite a
house
few
for
people.
this.
yeah.
Right.
So. Anybody else have any questions for Jared on this?
And that's all I have.
Okay, well, we'll see you tonight and have everything ready to go. So,
Thank you, Commissioners.
thank you.
I did figure out. It's just that minor. It'll still have a, but he needs to get it updated beforehand.
Right. Yes. Things get complicated.
This is why we said. You get what? You get whatever response you're getting.
Oh, Patty, okay. Oh, okay. 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 So we just.
Because at 80 miles an hour, it starts to roll at 100.
That's right.
Oh, I see, okay.
Yeah.
Down, okay. Well, then I guess I just.
No, that one,
Down. Doesn't first possession require use of.
Yeah, but if you can't possess, can't obtain average, I was telling him the story. Established. Well, now I got practice.
And that's kind of what are the different hearing for the family.
But if it's not government, it's government owned, and that's, we can't.
There's no signal.
I'll present in 5 minutes. Well, I found out. I'm good.
So you're here for the hospital deal?
I wanted to, get to discussion about the winery. Is there like, is there a business that's, like, wanting to come in that like spurred?
No, I had a gentleman call inquire about wine. And I have a